I'm in control.
Point blank, the deadlift is the gold standard of exercises. It is an exercise that no matter what apparatus you're doing, the barbell or the trap bar, you have to be doing. It is an exercise that once you get started with it and once you master it, you will lift heavier on this than you will on every single other motion. Such a great move for building your back. It's gonna build your glutes and your hamstrings and your core. On top of that too, your grip. It basically covers everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a full body attack. Regardless of whether you're changing the height of it, the modality, you're gonna see the massive effects of what a deadlift can do for you because it's an all-out effort to just move weight against gravity. And when you start to get into that equation, you're really asking everything from the small muscles that are within your hands, to your grip, to your shoulders, all the way through that posterior chain and through the lower body, which creates a full storm of, can you do this movement? So the deadlift, for that reason, is a king of all of them.
Exactly. The interesting thing, like you said, when we have that full storm, when we've got our grip involved, our lats, our glutes, all these different body parts coming together to lift a weight off the ground, because that's essentially what it boils down to, there are a bunch of ways that we can influence making this lift better, and we can improve this lift in little ways. Here are our 5 motions for making your deadlift much stronger than it already is.
Number 5, we look at a posterior chain dominated move in the PENDLAY row. With a PENDLAY row, the unique fashion of it is you're gonna be in that static hinged position, which is gonna keep the bar up against the ground, and you are strictly focusing on the concentric movement of bringing that bar up to your body and then allowing it to crash back down to the ground. What this does is it focuses on you to stabilize with that weight moving while packing on the stress for the lats, those back muscles, your scapular muscles, which is gonna play a key role specifically when you're trying to implement that into a deadlift.
Exactly. When you're thinking about the PENDLAY row, do not think about doing this lift slowly. What you want to think about doing is creating tension through your hamstrings, tension through your glutes, tension through your core. Maintain all that tension and then think about ripping the bar off the ground, pulling it up with speed, because that's the key on the PENDLAY row as you do it. I like to keep this one anywhere from 3 to 4 sets of 6 to 8 reps, keeping everything powerful. And I'll do this sometimes on the day I deadlift, but also the day I train my back. It's a really good opening back exercise for the day I'm training pull.
Yeah, especially when you're doing power type movements, you want to try and keep them towards the front of your program because of how much energy you have to exert through it. So if we're using a little bit of a lighter weight and I'm trying to prime someone and get a little something to translate into another exercise, I may go with something higher like 8 repetitions, but if we're keeping a PENDLAY roll as the goal that might be for that day, we're staying anywhere with a 3, 4 to 5 rep range.
Exactly. So think about getting this in your routine at least once a week. You're gonna see a lot of upper body and good back gains that are great in general, and they're also gonna fuel a much stronger deadlift. Number 4 on our list is something called the good morning. Now, this is an exercise that honestly, I don't do nearly enough. It's an exercise that I think is forgotten in the hierarchy of hinging ideas. A lot of times we think Romanian deadlift, but the good morning has some very, very distinct advantages just in terms of how we're loading and in terms of how we really, really have to appreciate the eccentric and take our time on every single rep, because we have a bar essentially on our back or our mid-back. We've got to create a lot of mid-back tension. You don't want the bar resting there. You want to make sure that you're steering and controlling the bar, and then we're pushing our butt back. We've got to maintain a lot of great core tension in that position, and then from that position we get to drive up. We get a little bit of good hip extension at the end too. That's always great, fuels a better deadlift.
Yeah, I think when it comes to a technique and form perspective, you want to stay with lower repetitions if you can, even if the weight and intensity isn't matching to what that is. I generally will keep anyone between 8 to 12 rep with this, a little bit higher volume, because I'm going to emphasize them sitting with a little bit lower weight, allowing themselves to really feel the hips moving back, feel the stretch through the hamstrings, and then bring themselves back up in the same way that we would with other hinge dominant movements. But because of the good morning and because of where the weight is loaded, I always want people to take their time just a little bit and truly get that mind muscle connection that we want in order to translate best to their deadlifting.
This is not a lift where you just walk into the gym like a biceps curl
Correct.
And you instantly know how to do it. It isn't even an RDL where you can kind of feel it out. So don't be afraid to kind of use a smaller range of motion when you first get started. You've got to develop some trust in your spine, some connection with your ability to really brace your spine and be in control. And that could take time. It could take a couple sessions. So don't be afraid to use a smaller range of motion at the start. And as you get comfortable, then you're going to be able to work through a larger range of motion, go through the full pattern on the good morning, and then you're going to start to be able to load it. But again, you always want to load this exercise cautiously. It's number 4 on our list for a reason. You want to have it in your routine because it's going to teach a ton of bracing, and you're going to have to learn that because the good morning is a learning process period.
Number 3 on our list is something that you won't necessarily connect with the deadlift, but it's more important than you would imagine, and that is farmer's carries or loaded carries. The fact of the matter is, you can only deadlift as much weight as you can hold on to. And if you can't hold on to weight for a long time, you're not gonna be able to deadlift for a long time or deadlift a lot of weight with that. Farmer's carries are a great way to focus on both your locomotive movement, how it's changing through space, but really lock in that posterior chain, that shoulder girdle, you're bracing from a core perspective, and also really tap into that grip that you're gonna need for your deadlifting.
Exactly. Multiple apparatus that you can use for this as well. Kettlebells, dumbbells. You can also grab a trap bar. That's a really, really good option where you can load it up with weight so you can go a little bit heavier. But whatever you're doing, it is more than just simply standing up, but it's a good chance to really squeeze our shoulder blades, get our chest out nice and proud, at the same time squeeze our abs, tighten everything up, and then squeeze the heck out of the weights as we're holding it. Such a great grip exercise too.
Yeah, and it's a lot of it is a matter of control. Like, we are not trying to get from point A to point B as fast as possible. My job is to be able to control the weight in a sustained motion throughout the entirety of it, which is why, especially when it comes to programming perspectives, we're not looking at distances. I see a lot of times it's programmed in distance of 20 feet or 30 feet. Well, if I'm told distance of space, I'm gonna get from point A to point B as fast as possible. So for that, I generally program in time and duration. So we will do about 3 to 4 sets of 30 seconds, where it might be 25% of body weight in each hand or 50% of body weight in each hand, based on who the individual is and based on what we're trying to translate it for.
You can also just do a march, just essentially walk in place. You're gonna get a lot of the same benefits, not quite the locomotive benefits, but you are here for that core tension, which you're gonna get. You're here for the mid-back squeeze, which you're gonna get. You're here for the grip, and you're here for also exposing yourself to just holding a really, really heavy weight. In general, when you're doing the farmer's carry, you wanna think about picking up the heaviest dumbbells in the gym, challenge yourself, because that's gonna challenge your CNS, and it's gonna get you acclimated to owning and controlling a heavy weight for a sustained period of time. That's a great way to set yourself up to deadlift heavy when the time comes to do that. Number 2 on our list, and this is one of my favorite exercises, period, for so many reasons, because we're gonna get that good hip extension to help us finish our deadlift. We get to be explosive, that's gonna help us drive out of our deadlift, and we get to brace a lot more than we may think. The kettlebell swing. And I just love this exercise because it's so much about power, and I know you love this exercise too.
Most clients that learn how to do it really enjoy it because it's a fun movement, and you can actually challenge yourself by feeling the intensity of it and getting a little winded from the conditioning perspective. You know, I do think it's important that when we talk about the cueing of these things, there are 2 common areas where we see misses in the kettlebell swing. One is someone overextending the hips and trying to get too much of a glute focus out of their swing, and they put themselves into a poor postural position. Instead, I always wanna make sure that someone is getting as tall as possible with their kettlebell swing. It's not about extending forward, but getting as tall as you can so you're rigid at the top and then catching that bell back on the way down. The second thing is making sure that the kettlebell does not have to get all the way up to your shoulders when you're swinging it. You don't have to force feed a front row. The whole purpose of it is the explosiveness of your hips is supposed to allow the kettlebell to ballistically move out in front of you, and however high it goes is however high it goes. So if it's getting up to your shoulders or above your shoulders, you're probably using a weight that's way too light for what you can do. And if it's barely getting off of your hips, you might want to lighten it up to allow yourself the capacity that you can use that power and use it in the right way.
Exactly. It's about trusting your explosion through your hips and trusting your ability to be powerful through your hips. Don't think about what your shoulders are doing. Don't think about elevating the kettlebell. If you stand up and squeeze your glutes as powerfully as you can, that kettlebell is gonna drive forward. That's just how the body works. That's just how physics works. And all of that power will translate to a great deadlift. In terms of programming, I like going for time, 20, 30 seconds on, 40 seconds off. You can do 3 to 4 sets of that. That's a great way to end a workout. If I'm doing it at the beginning of a workout, I'll probably do it on reps.
If I want it for the power and what we're gonna elicit out of it, say we're choosing a heavier kettlebell and I really want them to let it rip, then we might be doing sets of 4 to 8 because I want them to focus on the power, getting tall, getting rigid, which is gonna maximize really what we wanna do translating towards that deadlift. Which brings us to number 1. And number 1 is a limited range of motion option of the deadlift, which is a rack pull.
Because a rack pull is a very malleable lift where we can change the height very easily, we get to find the point where we're struggling in our deadlift, and you can take video of yourself, kind of analyze the point where you're really having trouble. We can essentially set the load there and work on creating tension through our glutes, hamstrings, and core, and then pick up the weight from there. So it's a great way to work through sticking points. It's also a great way to really acclimate yourself to just lifting a point blank heavy load.
Yeah, imagine trying to deadlift that 400-pound deadlift, but your body is prepared from a back perspective, grip perspective, and hip perspective for a 450-pound deadlift. That's what the rack pull can do. It can segment where you're gaining stability and strength in these areas so that now when you change your depth, I know my back can sustain it. I know my grips can sustain it. I know my hips are good enough to move through this pattern. I just need the rest of myself to just exert the energy and perform. And that's where it's great that you can incrementally change your depth. And listen, not every person should be deadlifting from the ground. So if you can't, the rack pull might be a great stopping point where you can incrementally change how deep you can squat, where it's safe and you're getting the benefits from what you want to do, but it's a great transition period on that spectrum of getting into the deadlift continuum.
Exactly, it's as much about the body awareness as it is about confidence too. When I've moved a 450-pound load or a 500-pound load on a rack pull, all of a sudden I'm aware of that and I believe I can move that, and that's gonna set me up for a little bit more success when I go down to the floor. So many advantages to the rack pull. How do you program this? Because there are a variety of ways I guess we can go at it.
Sure, so I generally program this for a strength perspective. So I will keep it anywhere from 4 reps to about 8 reps. And you can go a little bit higher on volume if you want to, but in my opinion, the goal of this is to get stronger from a grip, back, static, hip perspective. So because of that, I want to work with higher weights and lower repetitions to maximize my intensity so that when we do that deadlift, it's gonna translate really well.
You also wanna make sure you take every single rep of the rack pull very seriously. If I'm doing, say, 4 reps or 6 reps, as Dave said, I'm almost treating it as 4 singles. So I'm gonna lift, really own the lift, come back down to my pins, and then reset both my mind and my body, go into my next lift. That way I can really, really own it. But no matter what, you get to lift heavy with the rack pull. Lifting heavy is fun. Lifting heavy is also why you're deadlifting in the first place to some extent. That's why this is the move that's gonna drive your deadlift to the next level, and all 5 of these moves will make your deadlift better. So get them in your routines, and we're gonna see you break those maxes.